Howdy, with this video, I want to go over the schedule real quickly, then go over essay number 4 on the giver. I'm doing this essay on Sunday, April 5th. For this week, you're reading the giver. There's nothing due on Tuesday. That's just time for you to be reading. Then on Friday, April 10th, the first two paragraphs of essay number 4 due. These might be pretty rough, but I want to make sure you're on the right track. I probably won't offer detailed commentary, again, just making sure you're on the right track and working on the assignment. For Tuesday the 14th, the draft of essay number 4 is due, and on Friday, essay number 4 will be due. After that, we're going to be reading Henrik Ibsen's A Dollhouse, looking at the goings-on of Torvald and Nora Helmer. It's an interesting play, and it's one we can tie into some of the other things we've been reading this semester, so it should be kind of interesting lead into essay number 5. Then after that, we'll be working on the final exam, and that'll be it. Yay! Just to go over essay number 4, I just posted this up there on the content page. Let me make this a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to read there, isn't it? Going to follow the same format as essay number 3. Same basic 900-word minimum. Same idea. You should not be using research other than the places I send you. Please don't do that. There's nothing worse than me sending out that email saying, "Hey, I can't. If I grade this essay, it's going to be a 0 because you're using research and I told you not to." So be very careful there. Let me know if you have questions. But you're going to have the basic 3-paragraph format. Again, I like this format. It takes away the fluff factor that you sometimes get with literary essays, where students have to tell me about the greatness of novels or literature. It forces you to kind of stay focused on what you're saying and get straight to the point. And that's what I want you to do here. So in the first paragraph, you're going to discuss the giver in terms of Jonas as kind of a romantic or a modernist or a postmodernist kind of hero. Kind of this hero who's just qualitatively different and exceptional, not like the rest of us, so to speak. And kind of the question is, why do we choose to read about these types of heroes, and what do they have to offer us? Us who are pretty much commoners. You may not like me saying that about you, but we're kind of part of the big masses. And why do we try to identify with heroes who are just qualitatively better than the rest of us, so to speak? And you kind of notice I kind of poke a little fun at Disney films. And I've heard this phrase, the Disney princess syndrome, sometimes when we're talking about heroes. And kind of the idea is that you're kind of forced to identify with the princess instead of the common people within the movie. I'll give you an example there in Frozen, where once Elsa freezes the entire kingdom, that kind of destroys everyone's food supply, right? If you think about it. But you're not supposed to think about it. This is a Disney film. You're supposed to identify with the princess and her little problems, and listen to the songs and have a good time, which is absolutely fine. I'm not trashing Disney, but this novel kind of does the same kind of thing. It kind of presents us with a hero who's just qualitatively different from everybody else, and we're supposed to identify with him as opposed to the other people in the community, which is kind of an interesting thing. I kind of want you to talk about that a little bit. The second paragraph, we're going to talk about the giver in terms of John Mehta's essay, I Racist, or Robin DiAngelo's essay, White Fragility. In other words, we're going to talk about this novel in terms of race and this idea of sameness. And you're going to see within these 2 essays, you're going to pick either one of them. John Mehta's is kind of more emotional, a little more in your face. Robin DiAngelo's is more academic. It's kind of, once you read a couple of paragraphs, you're going to see which one you want to read probably. But they kind of present this idea of particularly racism in terms of this identity of sameness and very interesting ideas going on within their essays that can tie into the giver quite, maybe not easily, but quite readily. And again, notice I'm not asking if you agree or disagree with Mehta or DiAngelo. I want you to kind of notice how they're kind of talking about the same things that the novel does. If we kind of grew up in these homogenous cultures or societies or communities, what's that do to us when we're confronted with something that's different than what we're used to? The third paragraph, you're going to discuss the giver in terms of your experiences with this COVID-19 pandemic. I want you to kind of think of your life before the pandemic in terms of sameness or predictability, things like this, or safety. and kind of talk maybe a little bit about how things might have changed because of this pandemic. Just trying to buy food is not as easy as it used to be. You got to worry about all these different things, right? Which you kind of noticed in the novel, they didn't have to worry about food either. It was delivered to the house, and then they came and got the dirty dishes. There's this predictability, the safety to life that maybe it's kind of been altered a little bit through this pandemic. So maybe a bit of a therapy question, but also kind of relating this novel to what we're experiencing a little bit. Um, I'm trying to talk about not trying to make sure I don't talk about the novel in terms of the ending or anything, um, because probably some of you are reading this before you finish the book. But after that, same thing as the previous essay, number 3. Go back and tie your paragraphs together a little bit. May not be cohesive as like a perfect 5-part essay or something, but make sure the paragraphs are kind of relating to each other just a little bit there. You want to put the novel in your choice of essay on the works citus page. You may not be reading the same version of The Giver that I am, so that'll help a little bit. And make sure, let me know if I'm looking at page numbers, I don't see what you're seeing, that we're in a different book. Need all the punctuation there. Should be quoting from the novel within each paragraph, so you should be able to get all the punctuation in there. You might end up using I've in that third paragraph. That's fine. But the rest of them, you want to be involved in analysis, not just, I personally think that something. And of course, kind of avoid got and get and you and your and it within your essays. But that's kind of how the essay is going to work. If you have questions about it as you're working on it, be sure and let me know. But right now for this week, you should be reading The Giver. Hopefully, it's an adolescent novel. It's not one of these deep, super symbolic kind of things. It kind of is, but it's kind of a fun, short novel to read. And I wish we could compare it to a production from the theater department, but again, we just don't have that option. So we're going to go with this one. But if you have questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.